Melissa grabbed her bag and rushed out of the church hall before the closing prayer fully ended. Her heart was beating too fast, and she hated the reason for it. "Hello, can I talk to you?" The voice was like velvet, deep and laced with genuine curiosity that made Melissa's knees weaken. She had seen him during the closing session. While the pastor spoke on divine alignment, her eyes had wandered, landing on a man 3 rows ahead. He was striking, not just church nice, but breathtaking. And now he was behind her. Melissa didn't look back. She gripped her Bible to her chest and quickened her pace toward the parking lot. Don't look. Don't engage. If you like it, it's a trap, the voices in her head whispered. "Hey, why can't you talk to me?" A hand lightly brushed her shoulder, and she finally spun around, breathless. He was even more handsome up close. A stray lock of dark hair fell over his forehead, and he was smiling, a small, slightly amused tug at the corner of his lips. I have to go," Melissa stammered. "I'm Silas," he said, extending a hand. "I just want to say that your notes during the seminar were incredibly detailed. I was behind you for a moment. You seem to take your walk very seriously." Melissa looked at his hand, then at his face. Her heart did a somersault. Butterflies mean danger. Every woman she looked up to in her home church had told her the same thing. The flesh desires what is flashy, but God gives what is functional. They told her that attraction was a distraction, a worldly bait that led to shallow marriages. "My car is here," she blurted out, ignoring his hand. Silas blinked, his amusement fading into confusion. "Oh, well, maybe I'll see you around." She didn't answer. She climbed into the back seat of her rideshare and stared straight ahead as the car pulled away. Melissa let out a jagged breath. She felt a profound sense of loss, but she quickly masked it with a sense of spiritual pride. "Well done, Melissa," she told herself. God's will isn't supposed to be something that makes your heart race like that. It's supposed to be a sacrifice. Growing up, the narrative was etched into her soul. She had watched Rose marry Thomas, a man who smelled of stale coffee and rarely smiled, and heard Rose brag, "I wasn't attracted to him at first, but I chose obedience over my feelings." Melissa had been conditioned to believe that if a man was too good-looking, he was likely a tool of the enemy to lead her astray. In her mind, God's perfect will for her was likely a man she would have to learn to tolerate. 2 weeks later, back in her home city, she sat in the pews of her local church, feeling hollow. After the service, Brandon, one of the head ushers, approached her. Brandon was the ideal candidate according to the church elders. He was loud, he was visible, and to Melissa, he was entirely unappealing. "Melissa," Brandon barked, smoothing his oversized suit jacket. "I've been praying. I think we should go grab a bite, get to know each other's spirits." Melissa felt a knot of dread in her stomach. There were no butterflies, only a heavy, sinking sensation. This must be it, she thought. This is the test. If I say yes to the man I don't want, I'm saying yes to God. "Okay, Brandon, I like that." The date was a disaster from the first 5 minutes. They sat in a small diner, the air smelling of burnt grease. "So, Melissa," Brandon began, leaning forward, "my vision for a household is strict. I believe the man is the king, the priest, and the sole decision-maker. I'm looking for a woman who understands that her voice is secondary to the mission." Melissa blinked. "I agree with headship, Brandon, but I also believe in partnership. I'm actually finishing my degree in—" "Education is fine," Brandon interrupted, waving a hand as if dismissing fly. "But can you cook? Can you support a man of God who is on the front lines of the ushering ministry? That's what matters." He didn't ask about her childhood. He didn't ask about her dreams. He spent 40 minutes explaining the Greek roots of submission while checking his watch. When the check arrived, he pushed it toward her. "We should split this," he said firmly. "A godly woman shouldn't expect a man to carry the whole burden. It shows a lack of stewardship on your part." Melissa paid her half, her hand trembling. She felt small and invisible. But as she drove home, she forced herself to pray, "Lord, thank you for Brandon. He's a man of God. Take away my worldly desire for someone who actually listens to me. Take away my desire for someone I actually want to look at, When she got home, her mother was waiting in the kitchen. "How is it? I saw you leave with Brandon. He's such a pillar in this church. Melissa, a real stable man. Mom, he was very focused on himself. And he made me pay for my own salad after talking to me for an hour." Her mother sighed, placing a hand on Melissa's shoulder. "Oh, honey, men are rough around the edges. Don't be so picky. Attraction is fleeting. Beauty is vain. What matters is that he's in the house of the Lord. You want a good guy, or do you want to be single forever chasing a fairy tale?" Melissa went to bed and cried. She felt like she was being squeezed into a box that was too small for her soul. Every time Silas's face, the man from Philadelphia, flashed in her mind, she repented for it as if it were a mortal sin. She went on 3 more dates with Brandon. Each one was worse than the last. He grew more demanding, more condescending. He would stop her mid-sentence to say, "A quiet spirit is a woman's greatest ornament, Melissa. You're talking too much." The breaking point came on a Tuesday night. They were sitting in his car after a midweek service. "I've decided," Brandon said, as if announcing a royal decree. "We should move toward an engagement by the end of the year. I've talked to your father." "You talked to my father without talking to me?" Melissa's voice rose. "I'm the head, Melissa. Get used to it." "No," Melissa said, the word exploding out of her. "No, Brandon, I can't do this. I don't feel any peace. I don't even like you." Brandon's face contorted. "Like, you're letting your emotions lead you? You're being carnal. You'll regret rejecting a man of God for your own selfish feelings." "I'll take that risk," she whispered, opening the car door and stepping out into the cold night air. The fallout was immediate. Her parents yelled, her friends whispered, and the godly circle she moved and made her feel like a backslider. But in the middle of the shame, Melissa made a new prayer. "Lord, if not Brandon, then who? Just please show me that I'm not crazy for wanting to feel something." Then came James. James was different. He was calm, kind. He was a solid believer who actually listened. He brought her flowers, asked about her school, and for the first time, everyone approved. "See," her best friend whispered. "He's the one. He's nice, he's godly, and he's safe." But there was a problem. Melissa prayed and prayed, asking for peace, but all she felt was a brick in her chest. Every time James leaned in, she pulled away. She begged God, "Lord, if he's the one, make me love him, make me want him." Instead, the opposite happened. One evening, James sat her down, looking uncharacteristically somber. "Melissa, I've been praying," James said softly, "and I don't think I'm your man. I met someone else in the hospitality ministry. We just clicked. In a way, I don't think we ever will." He broke up with her and married the other woman 3 months later. The church gossip mill went into overdrive. What did Melissa do wrong? She's too picky. She missed her season. Heartbroken and confused, Melissa accepted a job transfer to New York. She needed to escape the whispers. She needed to be where no one knew her failure. To find a husband, she walked into her new office building on a Monday morning, coffee in hand, trying to feel like a New Yorker. As she waited for the elevator, a man stepped in beside her. He was wearing a sharp charcoal suit, looking every bit the high-powered executive. Melissa glanced up and nearly dropped her phone. It was him, the man from Philadelphia, the one she had run away from because he was too handsome to be God's will. He turned, his eyes widening in recognition. A slow, knowing smirk spread across his face. "You," he said, his voice just as velvet smooth as she remembered. "The track star from the Bible conference. Please tell me you aren't going to run out of a moving elevator." Melissa felt the heat rise to her cheeks. I was in a hurry. "For 7 months," he teased. "I'm Silas Jones. And this time, I'm not letting you leave without a name." Melissa stared at the floor numbers, her heart performing a rhythmic tap dance against her ribs. "Melissa," she whispered, finally finding her voice. "Melissa," Silas repeated, the name sounding like a prayer in his mouth. "Well, Melissa, I've spent 7 months wondering if I'd imagined a girl who ran away from a perfectly good conversation in Philly. You're a hard woman to track down." The door slid open. She stepped out, expecting him to disappear into his own office, but he walked right beside her. "I work on the 12th floor. Law firm," he said, nodding toward the glass doors. "And you?" "Marketing. Just started today," she managed to say, her face still flushed. "Welcome to the building. And since you aren't running today, how about dinner? No theology debates, no running shoes. Just food." Melissa froze. Every internal alarm she'd been gifted by her church elders started blaring. He's too smooth, too confident. A man this handsome is a snare. I don't think so, Silas. I'm focusing on my career, and I'm in love with Jesus." Silas stopped, his expression shifting from playful to incredibly sincere. "Melissa, I'm a believer. I was at that conference because I love the Word. But I also believe God gave us eyes to see beauty and hearts to feel a spark. Is it a sin to want to know the woman whose notes were better than the keynote speakers?" She looked at him, really looked at him. There was no arrogance in his eyes, only a quiet, steady kindness. But she shook her head and hurried to her desk. That night, she knelt by her bed, distraught. "Lord, take him away. He's a distraction. He's exactly what I want, which means he can't be what you want. Break this attraction, Father. Give me the strength to choose the unattractive path again." But over the next month, Silas didn't go away. He didn't try to force himself in, but he was there. He'd leave a gourmet cupcake on her desk with a note. "Heard you had a long meeting. Grace be with you." He'd catch her in the lobby and ask, "What did you learn in your quiet time today?" He wasn't like Brandon, who used the Bible as a leash. Silas talked about God like he was talking about a best friend. One rainy Tuesday, they both ended up under the building's small awning, waiting for the downpour to let up. "You're still doing it," Silas said softly, leaning against a marble pillar. "Doing what?" "Fighting it. You look at me like I'm a temptation you're trying to fast away. Why is it so hard for you to believe that God might actually want you to like the man he sends?" Melissa bit her lip, the tears stinging her eyes. "Because everyone told me attraction was carnal. They said if I liked him, it was my flesh. They said the will of God is often a cross we have to carry, not a man we enjoy looking at." Silas stepped closer, the smell of sandalwood and rain surrounding her. He didn't touch her, but his presence was a steady heat. "Melissa, look at me. God is the author of beauty. He didn't make the sunset gray just to test our holiness. He made it vibrant, so we praise him. Why would he want your marriage, the most intimate relationship on earth, to be a chore? You deserve a man who loves your soul and makes your heart race." For the first time in years, the box Melissa had put God in began to crack. She agreed to one date. Just one. They went to a small, quiet bistro. There was no talk of headship or splitting the bill to test her stewardship. Silas pulled out her chair. He asked about her childhood, her fears, and the school she dreamed of opening. When she spoke, he listened so intently she felt like the only person in the room. "I've been praying for a woman who is a fire for the kingdom and a heart that's been refined by fire," Silas said, reaching across the table to briefly touch her hand. "I think you've been through a lot of religious fire. Melissa, I want to show you what freedom looks like." But the old voices were stubborn. As they walked home, Melissa felt a surge of affection for him so strong it scared her. "This is too easy," she panicked. "Where is the struggle? Where is the sacrifice?" The next morning, she went to her new church in New York, desperate for a sign to stay away from him. She sat in the back, her head down. After the service, the guest pastor, an older man with eyes that seemed to see right through her, walked straight to her row. "Daughter," he said, his voice booming but kind, "why are you fighting the peace God is trying to give you? You've been told that God's will is a burden, but the Word says his yoke is easy and his burden is light." Melissa's breath hitched. "You're confused because you've been taught to fear your own joy," the pastor continued. "Stop looking for a man who makes you miserable just to prove you're spiritual. God is not the author of confusion, and he's definitely not the author of boredom." Melissa sat in the pew long after everyone had left, the tears finally flowing freely. She realized she had spent years trying to force herself to love men who treated her like a project, all while running away from a man who treated her like a treasure. She pulled out her phone and sent a text to Silas. Are you free for coffee? I have some things I need to stop running from. His reply was almost instant. I've been waiting 7 months. Melissa, I can wait another 20 minutes. See you at our spot. As she walked toward the coffee shop, she felt a level of peace she had never known. It wasn't the heavy, forced peace she tried to feel with Brandon or James. It was light. It was effortless. Silas was standing outside, leaning against the brick wall. When he saw her, his whole face lit up, and for the first time, Melissa didn't look away. She didn't repent for the butterflies. She leaned into them. I'm done running, she said, stopping in front of him. Good, Silas whispered, tucked over a stray lock of her hair, because I was just about to buy faster shoes. The coffee shop was filled with the low hum of chatter and the scent of roasted beans, but all Melissa could hear was the sound of her own heartbeat across the small wooden table. Silas sat watching her, his presence a calm anchor in the midst of her internal storm. You look like you're waiting for a lightning bolt to strike us, Silas said, a playful glimmer in his eyes that quickly softened into concern. I'm waiting for the catch, Silas, Melissa admitted, wrapping her hands around her warm mug. I've spent my whole life being told that if a man is this easy to talk to, this kind, and, let's be honest, is attractive, then he's a distraction. I keep looking for the red flag that proves you aren't God's will. Silas leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. Melissa, I'm not perfect. I lose my temper at traffic. I'm stubborn about my morning routine, and I still struggle with pride sometimes. But I love Jesus, and I think he loves you enough to give you someone who doesn't make your skin crawl. She laughed, a genuine, light sound that surprised even her. For the next 2 hours, they didn't talk about stewardship or submission quotas. Silas asked her about the curriculum she wanted to write for underprivileged schools. He listened to her talk about her favorite hymns and her fear of failure. When he walked her to her apartment, he stopped at the door. I want to be clear, Melissa, I'm not interested in a spiritual project. I'm interested in you. I've been praying about a wife for 3 years, and every time I see you, my spirit feels settled. Pray about it. I'm not going anywhere. But as soon as she stepped inside, the peace was tested. Her phone buzzed. It was a video call from her mother. Melissa, we haven't heard from you in a week. Her mother's voice chirped through the speaker. Your father and I were talking. Brandon's mother reached out. He's still single, you know. He's been promoted to elder. He's such a stable, godly choice. Don't you think it's time to stop this New York, finding yourself phase, and come home to what's safe? Melissa looked at her reflection in the hallway mirror. She saw a woman who looked alive for the first time in years. Mom, I'm not coming back for Brandon. I've met someone here. The silence on the other end was deafening. Someone there? Is he in the ministry? What does he look like? He's a lawyer, Mom. And he's beautiful, inside and out. Beautiful? Her mother's voice sharpened. Melissa, remember what we taught you. Saul was handsome, and look how that ended. David's son Absalom was the most handsome man in Israel, and he was a rebel. Don't be led by your eyes. You need a man who will break you, not one who will flatter you. The words felt like physical blows. Melissa hung up the phone, the old guilt creeping back in. That night, she went to her knees. Lord, please, if Silas is a mistake, take him away. If my attraction is a sin, kill it. I only want your will. The next morning, she tried to avoid Silas at work. She skipped the elevator and took the stairs. She ate lunch at her desk. She was determined to starve the flesh. But Silas was patient. He didn't text her 20 times. He didn't demand an explanation. Instead, he sent a simple flowers delivery to her office with a note that read, Psalm 37, verse 4, Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Sometimes, the desire and the will are the same thing. The breakthrough came on Sunday evening. Her new church was hosting a Q&A night with the senior pastor and his wife of 40 years. A young woman stood up, her voice trembling. Pastor, I feel guilty because I'm not attracted to the man everyone says is good for me. Is it wrong to want to be attracted to my husband? The pastor's wife smiled, a warm, knowing look. Honey, let me tell you a secret. When I first met the pastor, I thought he was the most handsome man I'd ever seen. My mother told me to be careful, that I should look for someone plainer, so I wouldn't be tempted by pride. But I realized something. God created the marriage bed. He created intimacy. Why would he want you to spend 50 years looking at a face that doesn't move your heart? She paused, looking directly toward the back where Melissa was sitting. Attraction isn't the foundation of a marriage. Christ is. But attraction is a decoration. It's the spark that keeps the fire going when life gets hard. Don't let religion rob you of the joy God intended for his children. Melissa felt as if a heavy cloak had been lifted off her shoulders. She didn't wait for the service to end. She stepped out into the foyer and called Silas. "I'm at the church," she said, her voice steady. "Can you come?" He was there in 15 minutes. He found her standing by the fountain in the courtyard. "I've been stubborn," Melissa said as he approached. "I've been trying to force God to be a boring, restrictive judge because I was scared of his goodness." Silas stood in front of her, the moonlight catching the lines of his face. And now I realize that I don't just respect you, Silas. I like you. I'm attracted to you. And I'm not going to apologize for it anymore." Silas took her hands in his. "I've already talked to my pastor back in Philly and my parents. I want to do this right. Melissa, I want to lead you, but I want to walk beside you. Will you pray about being my wife?" She didn't need a week. She didn't need a sign in the clouds. She felt a peace that surpassed all the logical advice she'd ever been given. "Yes," she whispered. "I've already prayed. The answer is yes." When she finally brought Silas home to meet her parents, the tension was thick. Her father sat in his armchair, eyes narrowed, looking Silas up and down as if searching for a hidden tattoo or a sign of heresy. "So, you're a lawyer," her father grunted. "And you think you can provide for my daughter?" Silas didn't flinch. He sat across from them, respectful but firm. "Sir, I can provide for her. But more importantly, I can honor her. I've seen the way she loves the Lord, and it makes me want to love him more. I'm not here because she's a safe choice. I'm here because I love her." Her mother watched them throughout dinner. She saw the way Silas looked at Melissa, not with the ownership Brandon had shown, but with a deep, visible adoration. She saw the way Melissa's face glowed when Silas spoke. By the end of the night, her mother pulled Melissa aside. He's very attentive, Melissa. I haven't seen you smile like this since you were a child. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe God's will doesn't have to be a bitter pill." Melissa and Silas are headed for the altar, but the journey doesn't end at "I do." 6 years later, the butterflies hadn't disappeared. They had matured into a deep, steady flame. Their marriage wasn't perfect. They had disagreements about finances, long nights with a crying baby, and the typical stresses of balancing 2 careers. But the foundation was different, because they actually liked each other. The hard times were easier to navigate, because they were attracted to each other. Intimacy remained a priority, a sanctuary from the world's noise. Melissa often thought back to Brandon and James. She thought about the women in her old church who wore their lack of attraction like a badge of spiritual honor. She realized now that because it worked this way for some doesn't mean that's how it's supposed to work for all. "We put God in a box," she told her friend Sarah, who was currently struggling with the same godly but unattractive dilemma. "We insist on how he should help us, and in doing so, we try to force our will on him. We think that if we suffer, we're being more holy. But God isn't the author of confusion or misery. He wants us to be led by his peace, not by a list of religious rules." Melissa had learned the hard way that attraction is equally important in marriage. You aren't just marrying a prayer partner or a ministry co-worker. You are marrying a spouse. You should be attracted to the person you wake up next to every morning. It's the spark that helps keep the flame alive when the winds of life blow hard. As she tucked her daughter into bed that night, she whispered a prayer of thanks. "Thank you, Lord, for not letting me settle for what was safe instead of what was right. Thank you for showing me that your will can be beautiful." She walked back into the living room where Silas was waiting, 2 mugs of tea on the table and a soft song playing in the background. He reached out his hand and she took it, finally at peace with the fact that God's plan was better than anything she could have forced upon herself. Marriage isn't just about endurance. It's about enjoyment. And when God is the one who brings 2 people together, He doesn't just provide the grace, he provides the spark. Thank you for following Melissa's journey. We hope this story reminded you that God cares about the desires of your heart, and that it was full of peace and joy. If this story touched you, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share with someone who might be struggling with these same questions. Comment below. Do you believe attraction is a gift from God? We want to hear your thoughts. See you in the next story.